One of the newer arguments against the deity of Jesus Christ that's become really popular lately is something called the Jewish law of agency. It seems that Jehovah's Witnesses and Unitarians and others are constantly bringing this up, so I thought I'd talk about it some, and I know Bill from MCO for Help is making videos on this as well. How this argument basically works is that if you were to say, well, Jesus is called Jehovah, therefore he's God, they'll answer back saying, well, according to the Jewish law of agency, Jesus can take Jehovah's name and be called Jehovah because he's Jehovah's agent. Or if you were to say, well, Jesus created all things, they would say, well, according to the Jewish law of agency, it can be said that Jesus created all things because Jesus is Jehovah's agent. Now, where does this idea come from? If you want more information than I'm about to give, go to MCO for Help's video. I'll link it somewhere in the info section. But basically, the Jewish law of agency is a Jewish tradition that governed business transactions or legal matters that were handled by a third party. This is not a biblical theological concept. It's a traditional Jewish concept that's being read into the Old Testament. Now, let me give you a quick example of how the real Jewish law of agency actually works. Okay, I'm not very much of an artist, but I wanted to keep this simple, so I think that this will do. Let's say the guy all the way to the left, his name is Bob. Bob's a wealthy landowner with lots of flocks who wants to add 100 sheep to his possessions. The guy all the way on the right, his name is Tom. Tom just happens to be selling 100 sheep. Now, the problem for Bob is that because he's such a wealthy guy with so many possessions, he doesn't have the time to go to Tom to negotiate the deal to buy the sheep. So what does Bob do? He enters into an agency relationship with the middle guy. His name is Jim. Jim becomes Bob's agent. Bob is the principal because anything that Jim buys is going to belong to him and be his possession. And Jim is the agent because he's the one who's going to go in Bob's name and negotiate the deal with Tom. Now, there's two very key things to keep in mind here, because the ones who are arguing and reading this Jewish law of agency back into the Old Testament are missing on a couple of very key points. Now, the first point is that they're saying that the agent takes on the name of the principal. And this is true, just not in the way that they're arguing it. When Jim goes to Tom in Bob's name to buy the sheep, that doesn't mean that Tom calls Jim Bob. What it means is that Jim is going in Bob's strength with his buying power to do his will. That's what it means to go in his name. So when the ones arguing for the Jewish law of agency in the Old Testament are saying, well, yeah, Jesus can be called Jehovah because he does things in Jehovah's name. That's not what it means. It means that he's doing things in Jehovah's strength and in his power and in his will. So the first part of their argument completely falls flat. Now, the second thing to keep in mind, and this is very, very important, is that because Jim is an agent and Bob is the principal, Jim is buying for Bob. Whatever deal Jim makes, whatever Jim brings back, belongs to Bob. As soon as Jim begins to buy things for himself, Jim is no longer an agent. He's a principal. Okay, now it's at this point that this Jewish law of agency theory just implodes upon itself. It's fairly easy to tell from the scriptures whether Jesus is just an agent working for somebody else or if he's a principal working for his own benefit. Remember in our example that if Jim procured the sheep for himself, according to the Jewish law of agency, he's no longer an agent, he's a principal. Well, the Bible is absolutely 100% crystal clear that in creation, it says of Jesus that all things were created by him and for him, making Jesus not just an agent for somebody else, but a principal as well. You know, whenever you try to cram a tradition like this is into the Old Testament, into the Scriptures, it's always going to fail. We never interpret the Scriptures in light of human traditions, especially when these traditions are not even theological, but have to do with business dealings in legal transactions.